This is a Vivekananda Kendra Kanyakumari recording. All recordings of Vivekananda Kendra are in the public domain. For more information and also to volunteer, please visit www.vkendra.org. My India, the India Eternal by Swami Vivekananda. Read by Abhishek Shinghorai. Chapter 3. Way to Regeneration.
Do not destroy. In the first place, I would ask mankind to recognize this maxim: do not destroy. Iconoclastic reformers do not good to the world. Break not, pull not anything down, but build. Help if you can. If you cannot, fold your hands and stand by and see things go on. Do not injure. If you cannot render help, take man where he stands, and from there give him a lift. What can you and I do? Do you think you can teach even a child? You cannot. The child teaches himself. The masses, the fountainhead of power. Whether the leadership of society be in the hands of those who monopolize learning or wield the power of riches or arms, the source of its power is always the subject masses. By so much as the class in power severes itself from its source, by so much is it sure to become weak. Self-love is the first teacher of self-renunciation. For the preservation of the individual's interest only, one looks first to the well-being of the whole. In the interest of one's own nation is one's own interest. In the well-being of one's own nation is one's own well-being. Without the cooperation of the many, most works can by no means go on. Even self-defense becomes an impossibility. The individual's life is in the life of the whole. The individual's happiness is in the happiness of the whole. Apart from the whole, the individual's existence is inconceivable. This is an eternal truth and is the bedrock on which the universe is built. To move slowly towards the infinite whole, bearing a constant feeling of intense sympathy and sameness with it, being happy with its happiness, and being distressed in its affliction is the individual's sole duty. Laboring classes of India, as a result of your silent, constant labor, Babylon, Persia, Alexandria, Greece, Rome, Venice, Genoa, Baghdad, Samarkand, Spain, Portugal, France, Denmark, Holland, and England has successively attained supremacy and eminence. And you? Well, who cares to think of you? Your ancestors wrote a few philosophical works, penned a dozen or so epics, or built a number of temples. That is all. And you rend the skies with triumphal shouts. And you rend the skies with triumphal shouts. While those whose heart's blood has contributed to all the progress that has been made in the world, well, who cares to praise them? The world-conquering heroes of spirituality, war, and poetry are in the eyes of all, and they have received the homage of mankind. But where nobody looks, no one gives a word of encouragement. Where everybody hates, that living amid such circumstances and displaying boundless patience, infinite love, and dauntless practicality, our proletariat are doing their duty in their homes day and night without the slightest murmur. Well, is there no heroism in this? Many turn out to be heroes when they have got some great task to perform. Even a coward easily gives up his life, and the most selfish man behaves disinterestedly when there is a multitude to cheer them on. But blessed indeed is he who manifests the same unselfishness and devotion to duty in the smallest of acts, unnoticed by all. And it is you who are actually doing this. Ye ever-trampled laboring classes of India, I bow to you. Elevation of the masses. Keep the motto before you: elevation of the masses without injuring their religion. Remember that the nation lives in the cottage. The fate of a nation depends upon the condition of the masses. Can you raise them? Can you give them back their lost individuality without making them lose their innate spiritual nature? I consider that the great national sin is the neglect of the masses, and that is one of the causes of our downfall. No amount of politics would be of any avail until the masses in India are once more well educated, well fed, and well cared for. They pay for our education, they build our temples, but in return, they get kicks. They are practically our slaves. If we want to regenerate India, we must work for them. Our mission is for the destitute, the poor, and the illiterate peasantry and laboring classes. And if after everything has been done for them first, there is spare time, then only for the gentry. Those peasants and laboring people will be won over by love. Udvare datma natmanam. One must raise oneself by one's own exertions. This holds good in all spheres. This moment they will come to understand their own condition and feel the necessity of help and improvement. Know that your work is taking effect and is in the right direction. The peasants and laboring classes are in a moribund condition. So, what is needed is that the moneyed people will only help them to regain their vitality and nothing more. Then leave the peasants and laborers to look to their own problem, to grapple with and solve it. Religion not at fault. Oh, how my heart ached to think of what we think of the poor, the low in India. They have no chance, no escape, no way to climb up. The poor, the low, the sinner in India have no friends, no help. They sink lower and lower every day. Thoughtful people within the last few years have seen it, but unfortunately laid it at the door of the Hindu religion. And to them, the only way of bettering is by crushing this grandest religion of the world. Hear me, my friend. I have discovered the secret to the grace of the Lord. Religion is not in fault. On the other hand, your religion teaches you that every being is only your own self multiplied. But it was the want of practical application, the want of sympathy, the want of heart. This state of things must be removed, not by destroying religion, but by following the greatest teachings of the Hindu faith and joining with it the wonderful sympathy of that logical development of Hinduism, Buddhism. Liberty is the first condition of growth. Your ancestors gave every liberty to the soul and religion grew. They put the body under every bondage and society did not grow. The opposite is the case in the West. Every liberty to society, none to religion. Now are falling off the shackles from the feet of Eastern society as from those of Western religion. The West wants every bit of spirituality through social improvement. The East wants every bit of social power through spirituality. Thus, it was that the modern reformers saw no way to reform but by first crushing out the religion of India. They tried and they failed. Why? Because few of them ever studied their own religion and not one ever underwent the training necessary to understand the mother of all religions. I claim that no destruction of religion is necessary to improve the Hindu society, and that this state of society exists not on account of religion, but because religion has not been applied to society as it should have been. This I am ready to prove from our old books, every word of it. This is what I teach, and this is what we must struggle all our lives to carry out. Know your past. Out of the past is built the future. Look back. Therefore, as far as you can, drink deep of the eternal fountains that are behind, and after that, look forward, march forward, and make India brighter, greater, much higher than she ever was. Our ancestors were great. We must first recall that. We must learn the elements of our being, the blood that courses in our veins. We must build an India. Yet greater than what she has been. Nowadays, everybody blames those who constantly look back to their past. It is said that so much looking back to the past is the cause of all India's woes. To me, on the contrary, it seems that the opposite is true. So long as they forgot the past, the Hindu nation remained in a state of stupor. And as soon as they began to look into their past, there is on every side a fresh manifestation of life. It is out of this past that the future has to be molded. This past will become the future. The more, therefore, the Hindus study the past, the more glorious will be their future. And whoever tries to bring the past to the door of everyone is a great benefactor to his nation. The degeneration of India came not because the laws and customs of the ancients were bad, but because they were not allowed to be carried to the legitimate conclusions. The first work that demands our attention is that the most wonderful truths confined in our Upanishads, in our scriptures, in our Puranas must be brought out from the books, brought out from the monasteries, brought out from the forests, brought out from the possession of selected bodies of people and scattered broadcast all over the land, so that these truths may run like fire all over the country from north to south and east to west, from the Himalayas to the Comorin, from Sindh to the Brahmaputra. Respect for the great men of the country. We have to introduce the worship of the great saints, those great souled ones who have realized the eternal truths are to be presented before the people as the ideals to be followed. As in the case of India, Sri Ramachandra, Mahavira, Sri Krishna and Sri Ramakrishna among others. Can you bring in the worship of Sri Ramachandra and Mahavira in this country? Spread far and wide the worship of Sri Krishna roaring the Gita out with the voice of a lion? We now mostly need the ideal of a hero with the tremendous spirit of the Rajas thrilling through his veins from head to foot. The hero who will dare and die to know the truth. The hero whose armor is renunciation, whose sword is wisdom. Religion not to be hurt. Keep the motto before you. Elevation of the masses without injuring their religion. Can you become an Occidental of Occidentals in your spirit of equality, freedom, work and energy, and at the same time a Hindu to the very backbone in religious culture and instincts? This is to be done, and we will do it. I claim that no destruction of religion is necessary to improve the Hindu society, and that this state of society exists not on account of religion, but because religion has not been applied to society as it should have been. In religion lies the vitality of India, and so long as the Hindu race do not forget the great inheritance of their forefathers, there is no power on earth to destroy them. When the lifeblood is strong and pure, no disease germ can live in that body. Our lifeblood is spirituality. If it flows clear, if it flows strong and pure and vigorous, everything is right. Political, social, any other material defects, even the poverty of the land, will all be cured if that blood is pure. If you succeed in the attempt to throw off your religion and take up either politics or society or any other things as your center, as the vitality of your national life, the result will be that you will become extinct. To prevent this, you must make all and everything work through the vitality of your religion. Every man has to make his own choice. So has every nation. We made our choice ages ago, and we must abide by it. And, after all, it is not such a bad choice. Is it such a bad choice in this world to think not of matter but of spirit, not of man but of God, that intense faith in another world, that intense hatred for this world, that intense power of renunciation, that intense faith in God, that intense faith in the immortal soul is in you? I challenge anyone to give it up. You cannot. You may try to impose upon me by becoming a materialist, by talking materialism for a few months, but I know what you are. If I take you by the hand, back you come, as good tastes as ever were born. How can you change your nature? So every improvement in India requires, first of all, an upheaval in religion. Before flooding India with socialistic or political ideas, first deluge the land with spiritual ideas. The Hindu must not give up his religion, but must keep religion within its proper limits and give freedom to society to grow. All the reformers in India made the serious mistake of holding religion accountable for all the horrors of priestcraft and degeneration and went forthwith to pull down the indestructible structure. And what was the result? Failure. Beginning from Buddha down to Ram Mohan Roy, everyone made the mistake of holding caste to be a religious institution and tried to pull down religion and caste altogether, for good or for evil. The religious ideal has been flowing into India for thousands of years. For good or evil, the Indian atmosphere has been filled with ideals of religion for shining scores of centuries. For good or evil, we have been born and brought up in the very midst of the ideals of religion, till it has entered into our very blood and tingled with every drop in our veins, and has become one with our constitution, become the very vitality of our lives. Can you give such religion up without the rousing of the same energy in reaction, without feeling the channel which that mighty river has cut out for itself in the course of thousands of years? Do you want that the Ganga should go back to its icy bed and begin a new course? Even if that were possible, it would be impossible for this country to give up her characteristic course of religious life and take up for herself a new career of politics or something else. You can work only under the law of least resistance, and this religious line is the line of least resistance in India. This is the line of life, this is the line of growth, and this is the line of well-being in India, to follow the track of religion. I do not mean to say that other things are not necessary. I do not mean to say that political or social improvements are not necessary. But what I mean is this, and I want you to bear it in mind, that they are secondary here and the religion is primary. The Indian mind is first religious, then anything else. In India, social reform has to be preached by showing how much more spiritual a life the new system will bring, and politics has to be preached by showing how much it will improve the one thing that the nation wants, its spirituality. Not by religion alone. First bread and then religion. The present Hindu society is organized only for spiritual men and hopelessly crushes out everybody else. Why? Where shall they go who want to enjoy the world a little with its frivolities? Just as our religion takes in all, so should our society. This is to be worked out by first understanding the true principles of our religion and then applying them to society. This is the slow but sure work to be done. Yet, perhaps some sort of materialism toned down to our own requirements would be a blessing to many of our brothers who are not yet ripe for the highest truths. This is the mistake made in every country and in every society. And it is a greatly regrettable thing that in India, where it was always understood, the same mistake of forcing the highest truths on people who are not ready for them has been made of late. My method need not to be yours. Material civilization, nah. Even luxury is necessary to create work for the poor. Bread. I do not believe in a God who cannot give me bread here, giving me eternal bliss in heaven. India is to be raised. The poor are to be fed. Education is to be spread. And the evil of priestcraft is to be removed. No priestcraft, no social tyranny. More bread, more opportunity for everybody. Now this is to be brought about slowly and by only insisting on our religion and giving liberty to our society. Root up priestcraft from the old religion and you get the best religion in the world. Do you understand me? Can you make a European society with India's religion? I believe it is possible and must be. Everything goes to show that socialism or some form of rule by the people, call it what you will, is coming on the boards. The people will certainly want the satisfaction of their material needs. Less work, no oppression, no war, more food. What guarantee have we that this or any civilization will last unless it is based on religion, on the goodness of man? Everything goes to show that socialism or some other form of rule by the people, call it what you will, is coming on the boards. The people will certainly want the satisfaction of their material needs. Less work, no oppression, no war, more food. What guarantee have we that this or any civilization will last unless it is based on religion, on the goodness of man? Uplift of women. The uplift of the women, the awakening of the masses must come first, and then only can any real good come about for the country, for India. All nations have attained greatness by paying proper respect to women. That country and that nation which do not respect women have never become great, nor will ever be in future. Education, the primary need. Education, education, education alone. Traveling through many cities of Europe and observing in them the comforts and education of even the poor people, there was brought to my mind the state of our own poor people, and I used to shed tears. What made the difference? Education was the answer I got. Through education comes faith in one's own self, and through faith in one's own self, the inherent Brahman is waking up in them, while the Brahman in us is gradually becoming dormant. The only service to be done for our lower classes is to give them education, to develop their lost individuality. They are to be given ideas. Their eyes are to be opened to what is going on in the world around them, and then they will work out their own salvation. Every nation, every man and every woman must work out their own salvation. Give them ideas. That is the only help they require, and then the rest must follow as the effect. Ours is to put the chemicals together. The crystallization comes in the law of nature. Our duty is to put ideas into their heads. They will do the rest. This is what is to be done in India. It takes time, quite a long time, to make a healthy, strong public opinion which will solve its own problems. And in the interim, we shall have to wait. The whole problem of social reform, therefore, resolves itself into this. Where are those who want reform? Make them first. A few men who think that certain things are evil will not make a nation move. First, educate the nation. Therefore, even for social reform, the first duty is to educate the people, and you will have to wait till that time comes. A nation is advanced in proportion as education and intelligence spread among the masses. The chief cause of India's ruin has been the monopolizing of the whole education and intelligence of the land by dint of pride and royal authority among a handful of men. If we are to rise again, we shall have to do it in the same way, that is, by spreading education among the masses. Education for self-reliance. All the wealth of the world cannot help one little Indian village if the people are not taught to help themselves. Our work should be mainly educational, both moral and intellectual. Multi-dimensional exchange of ideas are must. Give and take is the law, and if India wants to raise herself once more, it is absolutely necessary that she brings out her treasures and throws them broadcast among the nations of the earth, and in return be ready to receive what others have to give her. Expansion is life, contraction is death. Love is life, and hatred is death. We commenced to die the day we began to hate other races, and nothing can prevent our death unless we come back to expansion, which is life. We must mix, therefore, with all the races of the earth, and every Hindu that goes out to travel in foreign parts render more benefit to his country than hundreds of men who are bundles of superstitions and selfishness. India's doom was sealed the very day they invented the word mleccha and stopped from communion with others. One of the great causes of India's misery and downfall has been that she narrowed herself, went into her shell as the oyster does, and refused to give her jewels and her treasures to the other races of mankind, refused to give the life-giving truths to thirsting nations outside the Aryan fold. That has been the one great cause, that we did not go out, that we did not compare notes with other nations. Therefore, we must go out, and the secret of life is to give and take. Are we to take always? To sit at the feet of the Westerners to learn everything, even religion? We can learn mechanism from them. We can learn many other things, but we have to teach them something, and that is our religion. That is our spirituality. For a complete civilization, the world is waiting for the treasures to come out of India, waiting for the marvelous spiritual inheritance of the race, which through decades of degradation and misery, the nation has still clutched to her breast. The world is waiting for that treasure. Little do you know how much of hunger and of thirst there is outside of India for those wonderful treasures of our forefathers. Therefore, we must go out, exchange our spirituality for anything they have to give us. For the marvels of the region of spirit, we will exchange the marvels of the region of matter. We will not be students always, but teachers also. There cannot be friendship without equality, and there cannot be equality when one party is always the teacher and the other party sits always at his feet. If you want to become equal with the Englishman or the American, you will have to teach as well as to learn, and you have plenty yet to teach to the world for centuries to come. What we want are Western science coupled with Vedanta, Brahmacharya as the guiding motto, and also Shraddha and faith in one's own self. What we need, is to study, independent of foreign control, different branches of the knowledge that is our own, and with it, the English language and Western science. We need technical education and all else that may develop industries so that men, instead of seeking for service, may earn enough to provide for themselves. Can you become an Occidental of Occidentals in your spirit of equality, freedom, work and energy, and at the same time a Hindu to the very backbone in religious culture and instincts? As Western ideas of organization and external civilization are penetrating and pouring into our country, whether we will have them or not, so Indian spirituality and philosophy are deluging the lands of the West. None can resist it, and no more can we resist some sort of material civilization from the West. A little of it perhaps is good for us, and a little spiritualization is good for the West. Thus the balance will be preserved. It is not that we ought to learn everything from the West, or that they have to learn everything from us. A poor man's life is hemmed in and bound down by the tremendous spiritual and ethical laws for which he has no use. Hands off. Let the poor fellow enjoy himself a little, and then he will raise himself up, and renunciation will come to him of itself. Perhaps in this line we can be taught something by the Western people, but we must be cautious in learning these things. I am sorry to say that most of the examples one meets nowadays of men who have imbibed the Western ideas are more or less failures. There are two great obstacles on our path in India: the Scylla of old orthodoxy and the Charybdis of modern European civilization. Of these two, I vote for the old orthodoxy and not for the Europeanized system. There is a great danger lest by this huge wave of Western spirit are washed away all our most precious jewels, earned through the ages of hard labor. True, there is fear lest falling into this strong whirlpool, even the land of Bharata forgets itself so far as to be turned into a battlefield in the struggle after earthly enjoyments. There is fear too, lest going to imitate the impossible and impracticable foreign ways, rooting out as they do our national customs and ideals, we lose all that we hold dear in this life and be undone in the next. To avoid these calamities, we must always keep the wealth of our own home before our eyes, so that everyone, down to the masses, may always know and see what his own ancestral property is. We must exert ourselves to do that, and side by side, we should be brave to open our doors to receive all available light from outside. Let rays of light come in sharp driving showers from the four quarters of the earth. Let the intense flood of light flow in from the west. What of that? Whatever is weak and corrupt is liable to die. What are we to do with it? If it goes, let it go. What harm does it do to us? What is strong and invigorating is immortal. Who can destroy that? Have we to learn anything else? Have we to learn anything from the world? We have, perhaps, to gain a little in material knowledge, in the power of organization, in the ability to handle powers, organizing powers, in bringing the best results out of the smallest of causes. This perhaps, to a certain extent, we may learn from the West. But if anyone preaches in India the ideal of eating and drinking and making merry, if anyone wants to apotheosize the material world into a god, that man is a liar. He has no place in this holy land. The Indian mind does not want to listen to him. Do you know what my idea is? By preaching the profound secrets of the Vedanta religion in the Western world, we shall attract the sympathy and regard of these mighty nations, maintaining forever the position of their teacher in spiritual matters. And they will remain our teachers in all material concerns. The day when, surrendering the spiritual into their hands, our countrymen would sit at the feet of the West to learn religion, that day indeed the nationality of this fallen nation will be dead and gone for good. Nothing will come of crying day and night before them, give me this or give me that. When there will grow a link of sympathy and regard between both nations by this give and take intercourse, there will be then no need for these noisy cries. They will do everything of their own accord. I believe that by this cultivation of religion and the wider diffusion of Vedanta, both this country and the West will gain enormously. To me, the pursuit of politics is a secondary means in comparison with this. I will lay down my life to carry out this belief practically. If you believe in any other way of accomplishing the good of India, well, you may go on working your own way. India has to learn from Europe the conquest of external nature, and Europe has to learn from India the conquest of internal nature. Then there will be neither Hindus nor Europeans. There will be the ideal humanity which has conquered both the nature, the external and the internal. We have developed one phase of humanity, and they another. It is the union of the two that is wanted. A new India on Indian traditions. To the reformers, I'll point out that I am a great reformer than any one of them. They want to reform only little bits. I want root and branch reform. Where we differ is in the method. Theirs is the method of destruction. Mine is that of construction. I do not believe in reform. I believe in growth. I do not dare to put myself in the position of God and dictate to our society. This way thou shouldst move and not that. I simply want to be like the squirrel in the building of Rama's bridge, who was quite content to put on the bridge his little quota of sand-dust. This wonderful national machine has walked through ages. This wonderful river of national life is flowing before us. Who knows and who dares to say whether it is good and how it shall move? Feed the national life with the fuel it wants, but the growth is its own. None can dictate its growth to it. Evils are plentiful in our society, but so are there evils in every other society. Why condemn? Everybody can show what evil is, but he is the friend of mankind who finds a way out of the difficulty. Did India ever stand in want of reformers? Do you read the history of India? Who was Ramanuja? Who was Shankara? Who was Nanak? Who was Chaitanya? Who was Kabir? Who was Dadu? Who were all these great preachers, one following the other, a galaxy of stars of the first magnitude? They all tried, and their work is still going on. The difference is this: they had not the fanfaronade of the reformers of today. They had no curses on their lips as modern reformers have. Their lips pronounced only blessings. They never condemned. They did not say, "You have been wicked, now let us be good." They said, "You have been good, but let us now be better." That makes a whole world of difference. We must grow according to our nature. When is it to attempt the lines of action that foreign societies have engrafted upon us? It is impossible. Glory unto God that it is impossible that we cannot be twisted and tortured into the shape of other nations. I do not condemn the institutions of other races. They are good for them, but not for us. What is meat for them may be poison for us. This is the first lesson to learn. With other sciences, other institutions and other traditions behind them, they have got their present system. We, with our traditions, with thousands of years of karma behind us, naturally can only follow our own bent, run in our own grooves, and that we shall have to do. We need a band of fiery patriots. I heard in Japan that it was the belief of the girls of that country that their dolls would be animated if they were loved with all their heart. The Japanese girl never breaks her doll. I too believe that India will awake again if anyone could love with all his heart the people of the country. Bereft of the grace of affluence, of blasted fortune, their discretion totally lost, downtrodden, ever starved, quarrelsome and envious, then only will India awake, when hundreds of large-hearted men and women giving up all their desires of enjoying the luxuries of life will long and exert themselves to their utmost for the well-being of the millions of their countrymen who are gradually sinking lower and lower in the vortex of destitution and ignorance. Be patriots. Love the race which has done such great things for us in the past. Feel, therefore, my would-be reformers, my would-be patriots, do you feel? Do you feel that millions and millions of the descendants of God and of sages have become next-door neighbors to brutes? Do you feel that millions are starving today and millions have been starving for ages? Do you feel that ignorance has come over the land as a dark cloud? Does it make you restless? Does it make you sleepless? Has it gone into your blood, coursing through your veins, becoming consonant with your heartbeats? Has it made you almost mad? That is the first step to become a patriot, the very first step. You may feel then, but instead of spending your energies in frothy talk, have you found any way out, any practical solution? Some help instead of condemnation, some sweet words to soothe their miseries, to bring them out of this living death? Yet, that is not all. Have you got the will to surmount mountain-high obstructions? If the whole world stands against you sword in hand, would you still dare to do what you think is right? If your wives and children are against you, if all your money goes, your name dies, your wealth vanishes, would you still stick to it? Would you still pursue it and go on steadily towards your own goal? Have you got that steadfastness? If you have these three things, each one of you will work miracles. To the pioneers of the nation building, train up a band of fiery young men. Put your fire in them and gradually increase the organization, letting it widen and widen its circle. My faith is in the younger generation, the modern generation. Out of them will come my workers. They will work out the whole problem like lions. My brave boys, nothing else is necessary but these: love, sincerity, and patience. What is life but growth? That is expansion. That is love. Therefore, all love is life. It is the only law of life. All selfishness is death. And this is true here or hereafter. Even if there is no hereafter, it is life to do good. It is death not to do good to others. 90% of human brutes you see are dead, are ghosts. For none lives, my boys, but he who loves. Feel, my children, feel. Feel for the poor, the ignorant, the downtrodden. Feel till the heart stops and the brain reels and you think you will go mad. Then pour the soul out at the feet of the Lord, and then will come power, help, and indomitable energy. Struggle. Struggle was my motto for the last 10 years. Struggle. Still say I. When it was all dark, I used to say, struggle. When light is breaking in, I still say, struggle. Be not afraid, my children. Look not up in that attitude of fear towards that infinite starry vault as if it would crush you. Wait. In a few hours more, the whole of it will be under your feet. Wait. Money does not pay, nor name. Fame does not pay, nor learning. It is love that pays. It is character that cleaves its ways through adamantine walls of difficulties. Trust not to the so-called rich. They are more dead than alive. The hope lies in you, in the meek, the lowly, but the faithful. Have faith in the Lord. No policy, it is nothing. Feel for the miserable and look up for help. It shall come. I have travelled 12 years with this load in my heart and this idea in my head. I have gone from door to door of the so-called rich and great. With a bleeding heart, I have crossed half the world to this strange land, seeking for help. The Lord is great. I know. He will help me. I may perish of cold or hunger in this land, but I bequeath to you, young men, this sympathy, this struggle for the poor, the ignorant, the oppressed. Go now this minute to the temple of Parthasarathi, and before him, who was friend to the poor and lowly cowherds of Gokula, who never shrank to embrace the Pariya Guhaka, who accepted the invitation of a prostitute in preference to that of the nobles, and saved her in his incarnation as Buddha. Yea, down on your faces before him, and make a great sacrifice, the sacrifice of a whole life for them, for whom he comes from time to time, whom he loves above all, the poor, the lowly, the oppressed. Vow then to devote your whole lives to the cause of the redemption of these 300 millions, going down and down every day. Do not look up to the so-called rich and great. Do not care for the heartless intellectual writers and their cold-blooded newspaper articles. Faith, sympathy, fiery faith and fiery sympathy. Life is nothing, death is nothing, hunger is nothing, cold nothing. Glory unto the Lord. March on. The Lord is our general. Do not look back to see who falls. Forward, onward. Thus and thus we shall go on. Brethren, one falls and another takes up the work. The keynote, renunciation and service. Our method is very easily described. It simply consists in reasserting the national life. Buddha preached renunciation. India heard, and yet in 6 centuries she reached her greatest height. The secret lies there. The national ideals of India are renunciation and service. Intensify her in those channels and the rest will take care of itself. Self-reliance and self-respect. The great thing is to have faith in oneself, even before faith in God, but the difficulty seems to be that we are losing faith in ourselves day by day. That is my objection against the reformers. What we want is this Shraddha. Unfortunately, it has nearly vanished from India. And this is why we are in our present state. What makes the difference between man and man is the difference in this Shraddha and nothing else. What makes one man great and another weak and low is this Shraddha. My master used to say, he who thinks himself weak will become weak. And that is true. This Shraddha must enter into you. Whatever of material power you see manifested by the Western races is the outcome of this Shraddha. Because they believe in their muscles. And if you believe in your spirit, how much more will it work? In addition, the intense spirit of activity. We want that energy, that love of independence, that spirit of self-reliance, that immovable fortitude, that dexterity in action, that bond of unity of purpose, that thirst for improvement. Checking a little the constant looking back to the past, we want that expansive vision infinitely projected forward. And we want that intense spirit of activity, which will flow through our every vein from head to foot. 3 things are necessary to make every man great, every nation great. 1. Conviction of the powers of goodness. 2. Absence of jealousy and suspicion. 3. Helping all who are trying to be and not do good. The faculty of organization is entirely absent in our nature, but this has to be infused. The great secret is absence of jealousy. Be always ready to concede to the opinions of your brethren and try always to conciliate. That is the whole secret. It is absolutely necessary for you to learn from the Englishman the idea of prompt obedience to leaders, the absence of jealousy, the indomitable perseverance and the undying faith in himself. As soon as he selects a leader for a work, the Englishman sticks to him through thick and thin and obeys him. Here in India, everybody wants to become a leader, and there is nobody to obey. Everybody should learn to obey before he can command. There is no end to our jealousies. Until this absence of jealousy and obedience to leaders are learned, there will be no power of organization. We shall have to remain the hopelessly confused mob that we are now, hoping and doing nothing. I hope that every one of us here will have breath enough and at the same time faith enough. I want the intensity of the fanatic plus the extensity of the materialist. Deep as the ocean, broad as the infinite skies, that is the sort of heart we want. Let us be as progressive as any nation that ever existed, and at the same time as faithful and conservative towards our traditions. The laboring classes will rise. Human society, in turn, governed by the four castes, the priests, the soldiers, the traders, and the laborers. Each state has its glories as well as its defects. When the priest, that is Brahmin, rules, there is a tremendous exclusiveness on hereditary grounds. The person of the priests and their descendants are hemmed in with all sorts of safeguards. None but they have any knowledge. None but they have the right to impart that knowledge. Its glory is that at this period is laid the foundation of sciences. The priests cultivate the mind, for through the mind they govern. The military, that is Kshatriya rule, is tyrannical and cruel, but they are not exclusive. And during that period, arts and social culture attain their height. The commercial, that is Vaishya, rule comes next. It is awful in its silent, crushing and blood-sucking power. Its advantage is, as the trader himself goes everywhere, he is a good disseminator of ideas collected during the two previous states. They are still less exclusive than the military, but culture begins to decay. Last will come the laborer or Shudra rule. Its advantages will be the distribution of physical comforts. Its disadvantages, perhaps, is the lowering of culture. There will be a great distribution of ordinary education, but extraordinary geniuses will be less and less. Yet, the first three have had their day. Now is the time for the last. They must have it. None can resist it. A time will come when there will be the rising of the Sudra classes with their Sudrahood. That is to say, not like that as at present, when the Sudras are becoming great by acquiring the characteristic qualities of the Vaishya or the Kshatriya. The Sudras of every country, with their inborn Sudra nature and habits, not becoming in essence Vaishya or Kshatriya, but remaining as Sudras, will gain absolute supremacy in every society. The first glow of the dawn of this new power has already begun to break slowly upon the Western world, and the thoughtful are at their wits' end to reflect upon the final issue of this fresh phenomenon. Socialism, anarchism, nihilism, and others like sect are the vanguard of the social revolution that is to follow. Don't you see? I can see through the veil the shadow of the coming events of the world. By God's grace, it has descended on me. This insight of mine, through years of close observation, study and travel, that is sadhana. As the astronomers see the movement of the stars through telescope, likewise, the movement of the world falls within the range of my vision. You take it from me. This rising of the Sudras will take place first in Russia, then in China. India will rise next and will play a vital role in shaping the future world. If it is possible to form a state in which the knowledge of the priest period, the culture of the military, the distributive spirit of the commercial, and the ideal of equality of the last can all be kept intact minus their evils, it will be an ideal state. But is it possible? The other systems have been tried and found wanting. Let this one be tried, if for nothing else, for the novelty of the thing. A redistribution of pain and pleasure is better than always the same persons having pains and pleasures. The sum total of good and evil in the world remains ever the same. The yoke will be lifted from the shoulder to shoulder by new systems. That is all. New India. Let New India arise. Let her arise out of the peasant's cottage, grasping the plough out of the huts of the fisherman, the cobbler and the sweeper. Let her spring from the grocer's shop, from beside the oven of the fritter seller. Let her emanate from the factory, from marts and from markets. Let her emerge from groves and forests, from hills and mountains. These common people have suffered oppression for thousands of years, suffered it without murmur, and as a result have got wonderful fortitude. They have suffered eternal misery, which has given them unflinching vitality. Living on a handful of grain, they can convulse the world. Give them only half a piece of bread, and the whole world will not be big enough to contain their energy. They are endowed with the inexhaustible vitality of Raktavija. And besides, they have got the wonderful strength that comes of a pure and moral life, which is not to be found anywhere else in the world. Such peacefulness, such contentment, such love, such power of silent and incessant work, and such manifestation of lion strength in times of action, where else will you find these? Skeletons of the past, there before you are your successors, the India that is to be. India, the focus of the day. Shall India die? Then from the world all spirituality will be extinct, all sweet-souled sympathy for religion will be extinct, all ideality will be extinct, and in its place will reign the duality of lust and luxury as the male and female deities, with money as its priest, fraud, force, and competition its ceremonies, and the human soul its sacrifice. Such a thing can never be. The power of suffering is infinitely greater than the power of doing. The power of love is infinitely of greater potency than the power of hatred. The longest night seems to be passing away. The sorest trouble seems to be coming to an end at last. The seeming corpse appears to be awaking, and a voice is coming to us, away back where history and even tradition fails to peep into the gloom of the past, coming down from there, reflected as it were from peak to peak of the infinite Himalaya of knowledge and of love and of work. India, this motherland of ours, a voice is coming unto us, gentle, firm, and yet unmistakable in its utterances, and is gaining volume as days pass by, and behold, the sleeper is awakening. Like a breeze from the Himalayas, it is bringing life into the almost dead bones and muscles. The lethargy is passing away, and only the blind cannot see, or the perverted will not see, and she is awakening, this motherland of ours, from her deep, long sleep. None can resist her anymore. Never is she going to sleep anymore. No outward powers can hold her back anymore. There were many good things in the ancient times, but there were bad things too. The good things are to be retained, but the India that is to be, the future India, must be much greater than ancient India. The past was great, no doubt, but I sincerely believe that the future will be more glorious still. India will be raised, not with the power of the flesh, but with the power of the spirit, not with the flags of destruction, but with the flag of peace and love, the garb of sannyasin, not by the power of wealth, but by the power of the begging bowl. But one vision I see clearer as life before me, that the ancient mother has awakened once more, sitting on a throne, rejuvenated, more glorious than ever. Proclaim her to all the world with the voice of the peace and benediction. There have been great conquering races in the world. We also have been great conquerors. The story of our conquest has been described by the noble emperor of India, Ashoka, as a conquest of religion and of spirituality. Once more, the world must be conquered by India. This is the dream of my life. This is the great ideal before us, and everyone must be ready for it. The conquest of the whole world by India, nothing less than that, and we must all get ready for it. Strain every nerve for it. Up, India, and conquer the world with your spirituality. Ay, as has been declared on this soil first, love must conquer hatred. Hatred cannot conquer itself. Materialism and all its miseries can never be conquered by materialism. Armies, when they attempt to conquer armies, only multiply and make brutes of humanity. Spirituality must conquer the West. Slowly, they are finding out what they want in spirituality to preserve them as nations. They are waiting for it. They are eager for it. Where is the supply to come from? Where are the men ready to go out to every country in the world with the messages of the great sages of India? Where are the men who are ready to sacrifice everything so that this message shall reach every corner of the world? Such heroic souls are wanted to help the spread of truth. Such heroic workers are wanted to go abroad and help to disseminate the great truths of the Vedanta. The world wants it. Without it, the world will be destroyed. The whole of the Western world is on a volcano, which may burst tomorrow, go to pieces tomorrow. They have searched every corner of the world and have found no respite. They have drunk deep of the cup of pleasure and found it vanity. Now is the time to work so that India's spiritual ideas may penetrate deep into the West. We must go out. We must conquer the world through our spirituality and philosophy. There is no other alternative. We must do it or die. Once in far remote antiquity, the Indian philosophy, coming in contact with Greek energy, led to the rise of the Persian, the Roman, and other great nations. After the invasion of Alexander the Great, these two great waterfalls colliding with each other deluged nearly half of the globe with spiritual tides such as Christianity. Again, a similar commingling resulting in the improvement and prosperity of Arabia laid in the foundation of modern European civilization. And perhaps in our own day, such a time for the conjunction of these two gigantic forces has presented itself again. This time, the center is India.
End of Chapter 3. My India, the India Eternal by Swami Vivekananda. This is a Vivekananda Kendra Kanyakumari recording. All recordings of Vivekananda Kendra are in the public domain. For more information and also to volunteer, please visit www.vkendra.org.